Good morning, dear students. Ayush, Nikhare, Murdula, Sri Vaishnavi. Good morning to all of you. Madhu, Ahmad Khan. Good morning to each one of you. Dear students, today we are going to revise Albert Einstein at school. So, first of all, we shall revise the main events of the story. Okay. And then we shall discuss some of the important questions that you are supposed to study from Albert Einstein at school for your exam. Right. So, let us revise Albert Einstein at school today. Right. So, Albert Einstein's concept of education was quite different from others. He was never interested in learning dates and facts of history. So, dear students, Albert Einstein's concept, as I discussed in the offline class as well, was quite different from the rest of the students. Okay, he wanted to know. He was not interested to just learn the dates and facts of history. He wanted to gather information. He wanted to learn the concept why and how something is happening. Okay, instead of simply the facts like the dates and time and year. Instead of that, he was interested to learn the concept like why something is happening, how something is happening. So he was more interested in whys and hows, right? And what kind of logic did he give in order to justify his point of view about education, right? He says ideas were more important than dates and facts, right? He says that anyone can consult a book, anyone can go through the books at home and find out the facts, right? So that is why for him ideas were more important, right? For him ideas were more important than simply dates and facts, right? So as a result of his out of the box thinking, different kind of mindset, what kind of trouble did he face in the school is something that we shall discuss today. Okay, so as he was quite different, I told you he was not interested at all to learn simply the dates and figures. Okay, he was interested to learn more about why something is happening, how something is happening, right? So as a result of this unique thought process, what kind of inconveniences did Albert Einstein face in the school? So let's start with the history teacher. So what happened, you see here, Mr. Braun, his history teacher, was infuriated by his attitude. Infuriated means he was very angry. So Mr. Braun, who was the history teacher of Albert, became very angry by Albert's attitude. He said that Albert was a disgrace to the school and should leave school instead of wasting his father's money. So he became so very much angry that he went on to accuse Albert of being a disgrace to the school and wanted him to leave the school. Okay, because according to Mr. Braun, Albert Einstein was wasting his father's money, right? So that is why he wanted Albert to leave the school and go elsewhere, because according to him he was not eligible to be a student in the school because he often used to disobey the teacher. Okay, now let's find out. As Albert was unhappy with school system, his dwelling and his food, he wanted to leave the school by himself. So Albert was unhappy with his school system as well as where he was living. Dwelling means where he was living, and he was also unhappy about his food. So he wanted to leave the school by himself, but he was skeptical about his father's opinion about it. Okay, like as I told you, in those days, the school system was following the traditional pattern of teaching. Okay, like if a student has made a spelling mistake, he or she was made to write 50 times, 20 times. Okay, and everything was based on rote learning, right? Mostly rote learning. Therefore, Einstein, being a genius and being a quite brilliant student, was always unhappy with the school system, right? So he wanted to leave the school by himself, of course, but at the same time he was very much skeptical means he was very much doubtful whether his father would approve of his decision of leaving the school or not. So, dear students, skeptical means doubtful. So, Einstein was skeptical at the same time whether his father would approve of his decision to leave the school. So, he was not very much sure. So, even though he wanted to leave the school, even though he wanted to, study at home, but he was not feeling very confident. Why? Because his father also has to be taken into consideration, and according to him, his father might not give him approval to leave the school. That is why he was not very much confident about this idea of leaving the school, even though he was nursing it in his mind, a desire to leave the school. Let's see. His only friend was Yuri. Okay, only friend of Einstein at that time was Yuri, in whom he confided his miseries. Miseries means his suffering, his struggles. He thought of a plan to get out of the school. So he consulted his friend Yuri, and then he thought of a plan to get out of the school. Now, he asked Yuri for a doctor who would certify him with nervous breakdown and advise him to stay away from school for some time. So, dear students, you see here, Einstein had a friend called Yuri who used to know a doctor. Okay, so according to the advice of Yuri, the doctor will give a certificate to Einstein saying that Albert Einstein was suffering from a nervous breakdown, so he requires a couple of days rest from the school. So if that certificate is provided by the doctor, Albert would get rid of school at least for a few days. So this particular thought has given him some confidence that at least for a few days he will be able to get away from his school. Yuri said that he would try his best. A fresh medical graduate gave Yuri an appointment for Albert. Okay, so Yuri has given a fresh medical graduate gave Yuri an appointment for Albert. Okay, so his friend doctor has given Yuri an appointment for Albert, and the name of the doctor is Dr. Ernest Weil. So Dr. Ernest Weil, himself a student till recent times, understood the problem and told him that he was suffering a nervous breakdown, otherwise he would not have come to him. Okay, so Dr. Ernest Weil gave him a certificate that he was suffering from nervous breakdown, which Albert Einstein would produce in the school and get rid of the school for a few days. The doctor issued the certificate free of charge and told him to treat Yuri to dinner. Okay, and the doctor, after issuing the certificate free of cost, told Yuri that you just invite me for a dinner. Okay, and that's it. Yuri advised Albert to go to his maths teacher and collect a recommendation before meeting the head teacher. Okay, Yuri, the friend of Albert, has advised him to go to maths teacher first and get a recommendation first, okay, because recommendation letter is also important. So Yuri requested Albert to go to his maths teacher to collect a recommendation before meeting the head teacher. Okay. The name of the maths teacher is Mr. Coach. So the maths teacher, Mr. Coach, willingly gave Albert a glowing reference saying there was nothing more he could teach Albert. Okay. So maths teacher was very happy with Albert's performance in the class. Therefore, he gave a glowing reference saying that there was nothing more that he could teach Albert in the school. In fact, he would have a lot to learn from Albert. In fact, maths teacher would learn a lot from Albert. So such a glowing reference his maths teacher, Mr. Coach, has given to Albert to be carried to the headmaster. Okay, Albert was called by the head teacher, and then Albert was called by the head teacher and was asked to leave the school as his behavior became intolerable for others. Okay, and in the meantime, what happened? In the meantime, the head teacher got a complaint about Albert from the social science teacher, might be. So he has already taken a decision to summon Albert and ask him to leave the school as his behavior became intolerable for everyone. Albert wanted to justify himself but controlled himself somehow and walked out without closing the door. Okay, so Albert wanted to somehow justify himself that his behavior was not that what teachers were thinking, right? But he somehow managed to have patience and preferred to stay silent instead of justifying himself, right? Because see, like, he himself wanted to leave the school, so there is no point in justifying to the head teacher now, okay, because it is Albert who himself wanted to leave the school. Therefore, he kept his patience, kept his cool, and decided to not to justify himself and just listen to what head teacher was saying. So Albert wanted to justify himself but controlled himself somehow and walked out without closing the door. Albert was relieved at leaving the place where he had spent 5 years of misery. And then Albert left the school and he was very happy that he was leaving the place where he had spent 5 years of misery, because you must be knowing Albert was living in a place and in a house which was not at all conducive to the growth of a student, because the landlady and landlord used to always quarrel, landlord used to drink, so he was living in a very violent kind of environment, okay, which was not at all liked by him. Therefore, if he was able to leave the school, in that case he would be able to leave the place as well where he had spent 5 years of misery. Yuri was the only person in Munich. Yuri was the only person in Munich he wanted to bid goodbye, because Yuri was his close friend. That is why he wanted to bid goodbye to Yuri before leaving the place. Yuri in turn wished him happiness and luck. And while leaving the place Munich, when Albert met Yuri, Yuri wished him happiness and luck. Okay, so this is all about the story in a nutshell. Okay, dear students, this is all about the story in a nutshell. Now we shall discuss some of the important questions that you are supposed to study for the examination. Okay, so let's study some of the important questions. Like, for example, you can see here, what do you understand of Einstein's nature from his conversation with his history teacher, his mathematics teacher, and the head teacher? Okay, Einstein was a student more interested in ideas than learning dates and facts of historical events. His history teacher often rebuked Einstein for not complying with his instructions of learning facts from history book. because according to Einstein, uh, you know uh, why and hows are more important, and just not learning facts from history book is important. Okay, because according to Einstein, he can learn the facts and figures from history book anytime. In the school, he was more interested to learn why and hows of every incident. Then Einstein's interaction with his mathematics teacher was very cordial and endearing. He was highly appreciative of Einstein's potential in mathematics. In his glowing recommendation letter, he wrote that there was nothing more to teach Einstein in school. Right? So, in his glowing recommendation letter, he was highly appreciative of Einstein's potential in mathematics. So, in his glowing recommendation, he wrote that there was nothing more that he can teach Einstein in school. But the head teacher was not able to see the genius in Einstein. He called Einstein a nuisance in class. Nuisance means a disturbance. Dear students, the meaning of nuisance is a disturbance. Okay, so he called Einstein a disturbance in class, rebellious and a disturbing element, and asked him to leave the school on his own accord. On his own accord means in his own wish. Okay. Okay. Now this is very important question. The school system often carves individual talent. Discuss. Okay. So how does the school system carves individual talent? Okay. Because see, school normally follows the usual way of teaching, the traditional way of teaching. Okay. There are very few schools who go an extra mile and teach experiment based teaching. Okay, fact based, like based on experiments, based on projects, based on survey. Okay, because a student learns more if he is given an experiment, or if he is given a project and survey to conduct on his or her own. Then his knowledge of a particular concept also improves. Okay, so usually in a school, what happens, the focus is more on theoretical aspect. Okay, the concept is given in the form of theory, not in terms of experiments, projects and surveys, field project, etc. Right? So let's see what is said in this answer. The school often carves individual talents. So in which way does the school carve individual talent? The school system is not geared up to recognize the aptitude and talent of each and every student. Right? As a result, many students end up pursuing career in which they have no aptitude. Moreover, we shall not be given due recognition if we do not go to school and pass out from the school. The school system of education is not optimized for catering to individual differences. Okay, what happens? See, like in the school, the teaching takes place, for the total number of students enrolled in the class, right? And the school system of education is not optimized for looking after individual differences. Okay, so individual attention is hardly paid in the school's system of education, right? It is addressed for the whole students, for the entire population of the class. It is not optimized for catering to individual differences. It therefore kills the natural instinct in children to excel in their individual areas of expertise. Okay, great personalities like Thomas Edison, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison have all encountered the challenges in fulfilling their objectives in school life. The school curriculum did not suit their individual aptitude and skill. Thus, it is true that the school system of education often carves individual talents. Okay, so school system of education often carves individual talent. So that is the reason why, because the school is not optimized for facilitating the branch of learning that a student is interested. Suppose you are interested for legal studies, but in the school there is no subject like legal studies. In that way, your wish to study legal studies in class 11 will be stifled. Okay, so that is why, like, if individual attention is paid, and if you are taught according to your skill and according to your wish for a subject, in that case what will happen, you can do well. Suppose you are very good in legal studies, you want to study law and you are studying something else. In that case what will happen, you have not studied according to your aptitude and skill. As a result, your likelihood of getting job will be slim, because you have not taken subject of your own choice and skill. That is why it is very important that students should choose the subject of their own choice, and subjects in which they are skilled enough, right? So that they can further hone their skill in graduation in that particular subject, and they get a very good job in return. Okay, so that is why probability says that system often carves individual talent. Okay, now let's move on to some questions here, like who was Yuri? What was his role in the story? It's an important question. So you can study from the website itself like that. Okay, no need to write down in the notebook. Okay, you can study from the website. Only the NCERT question you can write down in the notebook, right? And extra questions you can study from the website itself. So Yuri was Albert's only friend in Munich and his close confidant. Means close friend, you can say. When Albert decided to leave the school, he asked Yuri to get a doctor's certificate issued declaring Albert to be medically unfit for the school. Right? When Albert decided to leave the school, he asked Yuri to get a doctor's certificate issued declaring Albert to be medically unfit for the school. Yuri fixed an appointment with Dr. Ernest Well, a fresh graduate who readily certified Albert with nervous breakdown and recommended 6 months rest. Yuri also suggested Albert to take a letter of recommendation from the mathematics teacher before submitting the certificate to the head teacher. Right? So this is important. Then discuss Albert's meeting with the head teacher. The head teacher summoned Albert in his chamber and asked him to leave school. He told him that due to his rebellious nature, his presence in the classroom has become intolerable. Albert asked if he was being expelled. The head teacher suggested him to leave the school on his own accord. Albert wanted to justify himself but managed to restrain. On informing the head teacher that he had already decided to leave the school, Albert walked out of the room and immediately left the school. Okay. So, but before he left the head teacher's chamber, he informed the head teacher that he had already decided to leave the school. Albert walked out of the room and immediately left the school. Okay. Now, how did Albert justify his view on education? That is a very important question, dear students. Okay, how did Albert justify his view on education? Is a very, very important question, right? So let's study this question. Albert said that ideas mattered more than facts. According to Albert, ideas mattered more than facts. There was no point in knowing dates or number of soldiers being killed in a battle, because according to Albert, those facts can be studied from the book itself, okay, on their own. But those details are not mentioned in the book, where it is mentioned why something is happening, how something is happening. So Albert Einstein was more interested about ideas, about the whys and hows, than simply the facts and figures, okay, which could be consulted from the book, right? So it would be educative to know why those soldiers killed one another. Albert gave more emphasis on inside information than gathering information, right? Inside formation. He gave more emphasis on inside formation than gathering information. So gathering information can be done by reading a book, okay, by a student himself. Okay, but inside information, okay, forming inside information is something which can be held through discussion by the teacher only. Okay, so that is why Albert gave more emphasis on inside formation, but unfortunately it was not available in the school. The school system of education was not encouraging the diverse thinking among the students. Okay, so next question is, you see, who was uh, Elsa? Why did she disapprove of the book that Albert was reading? That is also important. Who was Elsa? Why did she disapprove the book that Albert was reading? Elsa was Albert's cousin and friend. She lived in Berlin, where her father had his business. She often came to meet Albert in Munich. Okay, so Elsa was Albert's cousin and friend. She lived in Berlin, where her father had his business. Right? She often came to meet Albert in Munich. When Elsa saw Albert with a book on geology, she asked him whether it was required in school. On learning that it was not required in school, she suggested him not to read something which would not help him with his diploma. Understood? So, Elsa is Albert's sister, a cousin sister, um, and she could see that Albert was studying a book on geology. She asked him whether it was required in school. Then she came to know that no, it was not a part of his syllabus book. Therefore, she suggested him not to read something which would not help him with his diploma course. Right? Next is, why was Albert nervous when he met the doctor? Albert was so worried about what to tell the doctor that by the time of his appointment he was quite nervous. Moreover, he was very bad at lying, thus would not be able to deceive the doctor. But the doctor could know everything before, because Yuri has already told him everything. Therefore, the doctor did not ask much question to, or many questions to, Albert. How did Mr. Koch react to Albert leaving the school? Mr. Koch was the math teacher who admitted that Albert was wasting his time in his class as there was nothing more to teach him. He wrote that Albert was ready to immediately go in for higher studies in mathematics. Okay, because he has already learned a lot of concept in the school itself. Therefore, it is not required for him to study in the school. Okay, so So, dear students, let's complete this quiz quickly. Okay, before we wind up, very quickly. You tell me, why does the world remember Einstein as a world citizen? He supported peace and democracy. He was in support of a world government. He wanted the world to function as one unit. All the above. What do you think? All the above, right? Okay, but just leave it. This is not relevant at the moment. Uh, Only 4. Okay, dear students, those who are present, please write, give your attendance here. Please do give your attendance here. Just write yes sir, so that I can take your attendance quickly. Dear students, please do text me yes sir, so that I can take your attendance now. Madhu, Mrudula, Tanvi, who else? Ria. What about rest of you? Only 4 of you are present now in the live class. What about rest of you? Please do write yes sir quickly so that I can take your attendance. Tanvi, Madhu, Mrudula, Ria. What about rest of you? What about rest of you, dear students? Tanvi, Ria, Madhu and Mrudula. Only 4 of you are there. What about rest of you? Okay, dear students, let me wind up then. Okay, please be. I'm going to take your attendance from now onwards, so please do remain present till the end. Okay, please do remain present till the end because from now onwards every day attendance will be taken. Okay,